I haven't been the biggest fan of Netflix original movies, but they have put out some good stuff, like the Stephen King adaptations. And I'm pretty sure this is the first animated movie they put out, at least the first I'm aware of. I was actually pretty excited to watch it. It looked fun, and it has some good voice actors. What stood out immediately though was the fact that it's apparently made by a couple of Chinese companies, so I'm guessing they're really targeting China with this one. But I didn't think Netflix was even available in China, so I did some digging and it's not. However, they do have some sort of content licensing deal going on over there. It's all very interesting, but doesn't really have much to do with this movie. But the movie is set in China, or so I assume. But they do speak English and a lot of the signs are in English. And the school is called the East Lake Academy, and nothing's referred to by any Chinese name. And if this is supposed to be China, the future is a lot more diverse, because I didn't see a lot of Chinese people. Not that it really matters, but the setting is just a little confusing. But I did like the world they built. So the story is essentially about this angsty teenage girl who wants to, I don't actually know what she wants. She just wants to be loved and make friends, I guess, which is fine enough. Anyway, the movie starts with a title sequence that's essentially a montage of her backstory, basically giving you an idea of who she is. And then we get introduced to the current day world, where robots are pretty much everywhere, literally everywhere, and people have embraced them. And there's this big company called IQ Robotics that makes the best stuff, ran by this Steve Jobs type guy. And there's a lot of parallels to the real world here. The company is obviously Apple, or any big tech company. And the Q-bots are basically iPhones, or any other device. Something we just have to have the latest version of. And people being obsessed with these things is essentially just what's going on right now. People are glued to their phones and social media. So there's a fair bit of social commentary going on in this movie. You sort of get the feel that it's sending a pretty strong anti-tech and anti-consumerist message through the protagonist. It feels like it really wants you to unplug and go outside. But at the same time it's telling you that tech isn't bad and you shouldn't hate it. And you should like the shiny new robot. So it's kind of sending some mixed messages. I mean, maybe it's trying to say everything in moderation, but it's very unclear. And it's very much a kid's movie, so I don't know. I feel like it either shouldn't try to cram any messages down your throat, or be very clear about what it wants to say. As far as the story goes, it's fine, very cookie cutter, nothing especially surprising. The animation is, I'd say, on par with the big boys, the Pixars and the DreamWorks. Maybe not quite, but it's definitely not bad at all. It's good. One thing that did bother me a bit was that the mouth movement didn't always seem to match the sound. Not exactly. It was just a little bit off. Not quite there. But then again, that might actually have something to do with the Chinese market. They might have made it intentionally a bit vague, so it looks better when it's dubbed into Chinese. Or I might be making things up and it's down to incompetence. Either way, it wasn't perfect. The writing is okay, it wasn't bad. I laughed a few times, mostly at the dog and the security bots. The real problem is I wasn't emotionally invested in the story or the characters, so I ended up being pretty bored, to be honest. Now, I didn't actively dislike it. I actually couldn't point out really anything wrong with it, but nothing really stood out either. And all the words I came up with to describe this movie are very neutral. Words like bland and inoffensive. But there's some good stuff in here. The voice acting was fine, but then again, nothing really stood out. Except maybe the security bots. Those were pretty great. The soundtrack fit very well. It was mostly modern pop covers of older songs, maybe some original stuff, I'm not really sure. But again, it didn't stand out either. So overall, this movie was sort of fine. It's definitely fine for a kids movie. But for adults expecting a little more depth, there's not much there. I guess Pixar spoiled us in that regard. So would I recommend it? Not really. It's perfectly fine for kids, but even then, it's just so bland. So probably skip it. Or don't. You're not my kid, and I'm not your dad.